looks like we've got everybody we're going to get for the town board. And if we could have the town clerk start us off, we'll start with public comment and then move into our fairly brief agenda for the night. Charlie?
This is the town of Orangetown. This is the regular town board meeting of Tuesday, January 12th. On a roll call, Councilman Troy.
Present.
Councilman Divany.
Here.
Councilman Valentine.
Here.
Councilman Botari. And Supervisor Stilley.
Thanks. I'm here too, and I know that Jerry had a
He's having-
vacation plan that he had on the calendar for a while. So,
All right, so Jerry can say something.
so
And Esther Baitler, would you mind starting us with the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eric, could you help me out with the list? Thank you very much. Just a couple of quick announcements. Well, our park superintendent very nicely grabs our sign-in sheet for the public comment portion. There's a couple important meetings coming up. The public hearing on our prohibited uses, the benzene, toluene, xylene, is still on January 19th, although it's going to start at 8:05 instead of 8, because there's another thing going on the same night. Excuse me, just January 19th. It's the same night and everything. Just don't get confused when you see the resolution. The exact minute of publication is just being corrected there. And we're also going to start, as we often do, with a police commission meeting before the regular workshop meeting on the 19th. Just a heads up on that and a fair notice to anybody. The town board will be getting together with the police chief, and some of that I'm sure will be an executive session because it has to do with hiring. And then on the 26th, there's a public hearing on what we're calling the Cuomo zone change, which is an application for a set of properties on Route 303 in Blauvelt and some modification to zoning there. They've made a petition, and we're hearing it and gathering public comment. So that hearing is taking place. That was just two items right at the top of the agenda there. We have a sign-in sheet. I'll make a motion to open public portion. Do I have a second? Second from Divany. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
There we go. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people signed up to speak. As always, we value your comments. Look to complete them within the 3 minutes of our ticking clock. Don't expect town board members to answer directly. I know that often people have questions or comments. They're looking for clarifications, but it's in the nature of public comment that people speak and we listen and then respond after everybody's done making their comments. It's really for the public. That being said, there are times when it's hard to refrain because of how easy it might be to provide a clarification or because sometimes a clarification is really needed. But despite that, we're going to try to adhere to our concept of basically listening and then responding afterwards. So having said that, I would like to invite Eileen Larkin to start us out tonight. First person to sign up on the list. The first public comment of 2016.
Stuart. Nice to see all of you again. And I'd like to start off with good news and bad news. The bad news is we got our taxes in the mail. The good news is we got a check from the good governor up in Albany, Ms. Cuomo, because you kept the tax increase at the 2% cap. Congratulate all of you. It was a very big surprise and a happy surprise to get the check in the mail, so thank you very much for doing that, okay? And the other thing is, last year I spoke about the rates that United Water imposes on the residents of Orangetown, the summer rates. And they're much higher than what the people in New Jersey pay. And I did bring it to your attention, and I know it was kind of, I guess, maybe in September, October. But hopefully, maybe this year, somebody will invite United Water here so they can explain why we pay substantially more in our rates as opposed to the people who live in Rivervale and whatever other towns they service in that part of Bergen. I did get the information from somebody at United Water, so I believe it was factual information. Our utility rates are becoming outrageous, and for seniors living in this area who live on limited incomes, it's quite unaffordable for us, and it means that we can't do other things with whatever money we have coming into our home. So I offer this as a suggestion that we do invite United Water down here. We will be paying so much for the study that they did up in Haverstraw. The PSC gave them permission to pass that, the cost on to us. So that's another part of the United Water bill. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Larkin. Let's see. Mike Mandel?
He said the school district board meeting.
Oh, okay. He signed in, so. Skipping over Mike, maybe he'll come back around later. Esther Baitler?
Yep. Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and town board members. Welcome back from the new year. I also want to congratulate all the town board members who were sworn in. And welcome back, Dennis Troy. It's great to have you back on the board. And hopefully you'll continue to stay well from now on. But welcome back. Welcome back. Charlotte, congratulations on being sworn in. I watched the reorganization meeting, and I mentioned to Andy that guys should think about having Joe Dorso come in more often to sing, because it makes it more pleasant, more vibrant for people to sit at the town board meetings. It certainly is a way to open it up more. I heard him sing at the reorganizational meeting, and I think, Andy, you should look into that. I also would like to know what is going on with getting us a bus shelter for Route 340. I have spoken about this for years, Andy, and you said you were going to speak to the new upcoming supervisor of Clarkstown, and I'd like to know what's going on with that, because nothing seems to happen. I would certainly like to hear from the town board members as to what's going to be done in the coming year. For me, for everybody that lives at Dowling, Thorpe, Stack, and Dowling, and for Stack students. I'd like to know what's happening with that, Andy. Can you respond to my question?
When everybody has a chance to speak, we'll respond.
But Andy, I've been asking for this for 3 years now, and I never see anything being done along 340 corridor, and it's not fair. I mean, we're all equal, and we work together as one. And I just would like to know why this hasn't happened, and why nothing comes into fruition on this. As you know, I'm not going to go away until I see that things get worked on. The other thing I'd like to know, what happened with the paratransit bus service? I've been asking about that. Why hasn't this been done? It's not fair that everybody else gets it in the surrounding areas in Clarkstown and Nanuet. Well, why can't we get it? What is going to happen in the coming new year? Are you guys going to work on this?
Thank
Tom,
you, thank you,
Paul?
Esther. We'll respond.
Can any of you respond?
I can, when everyone's done, I have looked into this, Esther, the mini trans, and I have information I will share with the rest of the public.
Clarkstown has it. They've had it for years. Through the outgoing supervisor, Alex Gromack, and now George Oman. I would like to know why nothing is getting done.
Thank you,
Why
Esther.
every time I've been here, no one seems to respond. And when I ask a question, I deserve to be responded to in a mature and professional way. I don't think it's fair. But that's all I ever hear, that you guys are going to respond after.
Esther,
Why can't you guys
Eric
respond
Gordon and
now?
I have contacted Clarkstown. We got information from them that we'll share. But until the public portion's over, we're not going to get into a debate. I will address this issue.
I'll tell you, the only bus service you have is Brega, and it's awful. They're constantly late when I need to get to the Palisades Mall to transfer to a minibus to go to work at Five Guys. It's not fair. I'm constantly late. And then I have to answer to other higher-up people from another agency called Juanio. It's not fair.
We hear you loud and clear,
It's really
Esther.
not right, and I think that you guys should get down to work and get this accomplished. Don't just sit on these ideas, work on them.
Thank you, Esther. Could I have
Thank you.
Kevin?
Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Can I have
Congratulations.
Kevin McCormick, please? Welcome, Mr. McCormick.
Welcome. Thank you. Kevin McCormack, 83 Sickletown Road in Orangeburg. Good evening, town board members. I'm here to find out and hope you know that Verizon and a local property owner are building a 125-foot cell phone tower on a property that's located at the corner of Lovell Road and Sickletown Road at the Orangeburg-Pearl River border. This tower will be less than 500 feet from our house and over 30 other homeowners in the area. I would hope that the town board would agree that building a 125-foot tower in a residential and historic neighborhood does not make a whole lot of sense on many levels. Besides intruding on the views of our neighborhood and impacting the historic nature of the surrounding properties, studies have shown that this will definitely reduce our property values. Wouldn't this structure make a lot more sense, say at the Rockland Psych Center property, which is not really doing a whole lot for the town and certainly not generating a lot of revenue now? Verizon claims there's a need for another cell phone tower in the area due to lack of service. Our residents in our area are quite skeptical of that, and there must be better locations to put this rather than in a residential neighborhood. So I ask first, are there any laws in the books regarding this and whether or not this can be prevented from happening? Are all of you aware of this, and have you visited the site to see what an obtruse, a terrible thing it would be? More importantly, I guess I'd like to know what the board's vision is of Orangetown. I mean, frankly, I'm concerned about the vision when we allow local builders to clear nice wooded areas like the area over by Blue Hill Golf Course where you're building senior housing, and yet we have a 340-acre property that we've done nothing with in the 10 years that I've lived in this town. So lastly, I would like to know why my wife and I rarely ever receive any notices from the planning board when there's things that are happening around our house. So we did not receive any notice of this tower going up. We received no notice of the meeting, and neither did most of our neighbors. So I ask, are you coming to the planning board meeting tomorrow so that you can hear about this proposal? Do you have an opinion on structures like this being built in residential areas of our community? And what will you do as a town board to stop this from happening? Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time.
And thank you. We'll definitely come back around to that one. That was well said. Mr. John Buckley?
Good evening. My name is John Buckley. I'm a resident of Orangeburg, and I'm on the Board of Trustees of the Orangeburg Library. First, I'd like to offer my congratulations as well to those who were sworn in at last week's really wonderful community celebration. And I'd also like to express my thanks to the whole board for your public service and to our town clerk. I know your jobs aren't easy, and I appreciate your public service to the town. I'd also like to thank Eric Gordon and Jim Dean for the assistance they rendered to the library. Now, I wasn't able to make the last meeting of the year last year, so I want to offer my belated thank you for the board's passing of the resolution granting the library's funding request for 2016. You heard me come before you several times last year asking for an increase, and I think it's only right I come back and thank you for it. So I appreciate that vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Hurley? And then Kathy Kelly after Heather.
Good evening, Heather Hurley, Pearl River. I have only a few comments tonight regarding the proposed amendment to the zoning code's list of prohibited uses. I think the public deserves some clarification on this prior to the public hearing next week. And I'm addressing Mr. Divney and Mr. Edwards specifically because the two of you wrote this together. Does the language that states, quote, uses permitted by right, mean that whatever project that has already received prior approval will be allowed to scale up to, say, manufacturing, quote, by right? Anelitech Anelitech's answer on their New York State Consolidated Funding application states in question Q575 and Q1410 that the company, quote, may also perform small-scale manufacturing. And in Q2164, it says, quote, the proposal project is a pilot plant to conduct processing applications previously researched and developed on a bench scale. And yet, on April 22nd, 2015, at the Orangetown Planning Board meeting, Anelitech's own CEO stated that, quote, Anelitech is conducting research, never manufacturing here. So if it's true that the language in the amendment that says uses permitted by right means that Anelitech will be allowed to scale up by right, why then, to further expand in the future, why is that language even in that amendment if Anelitech's CEO has already stated on the record that there will never be manufacturing here? Why not ban the manufacturing of these chemicals across the board then? There would be no argument here if, for a lawsuit against the town, when Anelitech's own CEO made this statement in April. Anelitech was approved for research and development and not manufacturing. And that's it. If you could please just answer that one specific question about those 4 words, uses permitted by right, so that the public has clarification as to what that means. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kelly?
Kathleen Kelly, Pearl River, New York. Happy New Year, gentlemen, and Miss Madigan. It's very nice to see you here again. Kind of as a follow-up to what Heather was saying, I'm still shocked every time that I come here that I'm still talking about this danger that is inherent to our community with this corporation coming in. I think if anything is clear is that we're quite unclear of exactly what is going to happen. Just by their own application and by Mr. Sadolsky's comments that there would never be manufacturing, as Heather said in question 575, they clearly state the company may also perform small-scale manufacturing. So it just seems that there's nothing that's extremely clear here. And I understand with the amendment that has been proposed, and I absolutely appreciate the work that Mr. Divney did on this. He's taken the time to speak with me personally about this, and I appreciate his time. I think he values my time, and I absolutely appreciate the time that he takes to try to talk to me about this and help me understand this. Because I think at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want our town to be safe. We want our families to be safe, and we want them to be able to be healthy. And I don't believe that any of you don't want that. I want to be very clear. I just think we have a chasm that we need to bridge in order for everyone to get on the same page. And I think if we had a firm understanding of what this company was going to do, the chemicals they were going to use or not use, which also has changed repeatedly, then we would have a better understanding. So on this new amendment, where it does give the right to projects that have received prior approval to continue to do what they are doing, that last little codicil at the end, since their application does say that they may perform small-scale manufacturing, which is clearly something that you have said you do not want in our community. How is that going to be rectified with this new amendment? And I think that language has to be very clear. And when I last spoke with Mr. Divany, I had asked that maybe, if it was possible, that Mr. Edwards or Mr. Divany, the two gentlemen who worked so hard on this amendment, could really, in common layman's terms, explain exactly what this amendment is. What rights is it going to give to the corporations coming in? And what protections is it going to afford to the community? And that's really important to me, because if this is a miscommunication or a lack of understanding, I want to clear it up so that we can join together and make sure that we're going forward in the right way. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to ask that, and I'm hoping that we can have that answered tonight. So thank you very much for your time, and Tom, I really appreciate your time today. It was very, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our sign-in sheet. Has anybody? Sorry. Great. Yes, sir. Please come to the podium. Right here.
Good evening. My name is Charles LaBarbera. I live at 125 Elmwood Street in Pearl River, just off of Route 304. I'm here tonight to, after the erection of almost a 200-foot cell phone tower, which is basically right in the face of all residences that are on the west and also on the east side of Route 304. If you're familiar with the area, you know that Route 304 is basically going through essentially a valley, and the houses extend upward from there on both sides of 304. Although there are some commercial businesses on 304, it still remains a residential neighborhood. We woke up, we saw construction that occurred before Christmas. No one had any idea, no notices were put up in the neighborhood. All the people that I talked to in terms of getting my petition, not one of them had any inkling that this monstrous tower was going to be erected on Route 304. I hope you all have gotten a chance to go down there and take a look at it, because it's an absolute eyesore and monstrosity, and it makes us look like fools to allow such a thing to be built in our town. It sticks up like a giant rocket gantry. So just to get back to what I was saying, nobody knew that this was coming. And then a couple of days after Christmas, we got our Christmas present. We woke up and we found this almost 200-foot tower staring in our faces. So, for instance, I get out my front door now, and in my driveway, instead of seeing a beautiful blue sky, I see this monstrosity going up to the sky. Many other people have it worse than me. I'm second row of houses off of 304. My neighbors are right on 304. One neighbor is in the process of selling their home. I talked to them. They said they had a buyer for their home. This is before Christmas. After Christmas, the buyer came back. There was a conversation pertaining to the tower and what had changed. And they had to lower the selling price of their house $20,000. So when you read that these towers affect property values, they certainly do in a very dramatic way. So basically, we had no warning, no say-so, no chance to do any reasoning or questioning of this, no chance to even get our questions answered. And when we come to the town here, all we get is forgive me, what seems like a broken record. Town had nothing to do with it, couldn't do a thing about it. Everywhere we go, that's all we hear. Nothing to do with it, couldn't do a thing about it. The MTA, quote, can do anything they want on their property, anything they want. I asked your deputy, Mr. Riff, does that mean they could build a 1,000-foot tower on their property if they wanted to? He said yes. And even, I think the point is, there has to be some kind of limitation. They can't have those kinds of rights in the law. It just begs reason to think that they could do such things. Could they put a maintenance terminal there, for instance, on their parking lot and just dig it up? Could they put a steel mill there? What else? What could they do if that's what the MTA could do? So basically, we got this tower. We had no notification. Nobody on the town that I can see did anything at all to help us. They didn't lift a pinky. The only thing was on 22 July, my daughter discovered, and she was correct, that the planning board was asked for an opinion. The planning board rendered an opinion to the MTA. They gave us 11 words. That was their opinion. I want to read their opinion to you. Out of scale and inappropriate with the surrounding neighborhood architectural features. Now, the planning board, I guess, says that they couldn't do anything about this, that their hands were tied. That's the strongest statement that the planning board could come up with? That's a real toughie there. I mean, that would really intimidate me if they said that to me. I have to go on, I'm sorry.
If you could just finish up, that'd be great.
Just 10 seconds.
Go ahead.
Now, here's the thing. The planning board had that on 22 July. Did the planning board communicate that to anybody else? Their hands were tied. Did they let the people in the neighborhood know? Not one person I talked to says that they did. Did they let the town supervisor know? I'd like to know. I'd like to hear from you, Mrs. Stewart. Did you know about it after that?
Thank you you raised a lot of really great questions.
All
I know
right.
that the town board members would like
And
to
here's
respond.
the thing.
So.
I think you should have been able to at least get on the telephone and talk to the director of the MTA and tell him how opposed to it the town is and make our feelings felt. But I don't think that was done. And
All
I
right,
think
maybe you'd like to stop talking since you're over time and let us respond.
All right.
Because you've asked a lot of good questions. And frankly, I share your frustration with it. I think we all do. By raise of hands, is anybody else here for public comment? I'm not seeing any hands raised up, so I'd like to make a motion to close public comment. Do I have a second? Second from Divany. All in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. So just, why don't we start with that one? You know, it's actually a great quote. The monstrosity, your word, is out of scale and inappropriate, the planning board's words. And although I'm not a legal expert, I do know it to be true that the MTA on their own land operates not by town rules, but by regulators at the state and federal levels related to telecommunications. So those are true statements. They're very frustrating statements for myself because I did communicate with the MTA and their representatives who kind of offered the town the chance to say hello, while with the same breath basically saying, you know, you guys don't really have any control over this. And so those are the facts. It's very frustrating. It's an eyesore, and that's where it stands right now. I want to go on to just respond to a couple of other items that people have raised, and then the town board members will fill in where they need to as well. I'm not going to respond to specific things like that because, you know, you hear quoting people, and I don't want to try to recall exact dates and so on, but those reservations that I had were made both in person and via email. Mrs. Larkin raised the issue once again. I think it's well taken. First of all, thanks in terms of the taxes, and I think the town board did do a great job with that, and we'll keep working on it year after year, looking for cost efficiencies and savings. The United Water folks, on the other hand, you know, they sort of have, they've gotten a pretty long leash from the Public Service Commission until recently as far as the kinds of rate hikes they can do. And I think you're right. You know, I'd like to find out from them as well if they're charging New Jersey folks less than Rockland County. And I will talk to Mr. Madden, who's their communications guy, and see if I can get the information for that question for you, Eileen. And I'll also, you know, and Mr. Divany here has some information about the bus situation, so I'll let him speak to that, and that's great. The cell tower down on the edge of Pearl River by the lake there, another example. At least this one is coming to the planning board, right? And that's where people really need to go. That's the group that has some regulatory authority, though it's limited in the area of cell tower law. And you'll find this out when you go to the planning board. And you know, when I was on the planning board, we had cell tower applications, and they do have guidance, and the building department is clear on what the town can and cannot regulate in terms of height and location. So there's a lot to find out about that, and it's these cell towers. They're a nice way for a landowner to cash in on leasing their land, but they're not so great to look at in the neighborhood. And I think that sentiment is shared by all of us here. And I would like to take a little time when we finish up just to say a word or two about the prohibited uses in the benzene, toluene, xylene. Because Heather, I think you do deserve clarification on that, and Kathy as well. I know Tom has been involved in discussions with you today, and John could certainly clarify the meaning of the phrase that you raised. I don't think it's exactly as you think. Let's see. Was there another item that we needed to respond to very directly? I'm not seeing it right here anyway. If I can think of it, I'll come back around again. But with that, I'll yield the microphone to my colleagues.
All right. Esther, Eric Gordon did contact his counterpart in Clarkstown, and this is what we do know. They budget about $1 million a year for that transit program. It doesn't include additional costs that we would have to incur, such as staffing, medical, retirement, and insurance. So it has a very hefty price tag. They generate maybe $80,000 to $100,000 a year. So unless we get grants from the state or from the federal government, and we don't know if we'll qualify for them or not, you're looking at a $900,000 deficit a year. And I don't,
I'm paying 3 fares to ride their buses.
I'm not going to debate this. These are the numbers that we have from Clarkstown that runs it. They get grants from the federal government and they get some money from the state. We don't know if we'll qualify for these grants or not. These are things that we can look into. But these are the numbers. These are the numbers that were provided by Clarkstown.
Have you spoken to the town supervisor and agreed to it?
I'm not debating this. I'm not answering one more question, so enough for the questions, Esther. The bottom line is we talked to their counterpart, Eric's counterpart who runs this program, and these are the numbers that were given to us. We do have to follow up, but I'm sure that, people want to have this service, but do they want to pay that kind of money for the service? That's something that has to be weighed. Something that has to be weighed, and we will weigh it when we have the numbers, when we find out if we will qualify it for any grants. But, if we can't qualify for grants and we can't get reimbursement for it, I'm not about to run a $900,000 deficit for a transportation system when the county already has one. I'm sorry, we just redid the staffing at the golf course to save money. I'm not going to take that money and put it on a transportation program that might run us $900,000. It's not fiscally responsible. And that's all I have to say about that subject. Heather, you asked the question, and John, you can jump in. It's not to grandfather, this law is not to grandfather Anelitech so they can manufacture. That was never the intention of this law. It was to ban manufacturing, big M, meaning where you're just manufacturing, but it was done with the understanding that there are businesses in town that do produce or manufacturing small m, benzene, or some of the other chemicals in their production. You had Lamont Doherty, who said that this could affect us. You have other businesses that might manufacture, meaning they produce. Manufacturing is producing. Bakeries produce or manufacture benzene. You have gasoline stations have benzene, stored in those as part of the gasoline that you're taking into your car. So we don't want to outlaw all manufacturing of benzene. We want to manufacture the big M, which is when you're just manufacturing benzene. We're not here to ratchet up so that Anelitech can, produce more and manufacture benzene per se. But at the end of the day, I do agree with Paul that, I don't think that's what Nelitech has in mind, because if they don't have the cheap resources to do so, Heather, and you can shake your head all you want, but, you know, I'm not going to debate it with you either. But I'm just saying, that's not the intent of the law. I just said it, that's not the intent of the law. So that's what I'm saying, Heather. You can take it at face value, you can't. And John, you can...
Yeah, I think it'd be great if you could just give a precise summary of the law's meaning and relevance.
Well, he can tell us what he means, we can tell what we mean, and we're, you know...
No,
You'll decide what you
in
mean.
short terms, the
Yeah.
intent is to ban the manufacturing, but permit laboratory production.
I think there's,
Specify that.
I think there's one point that has to be made clear. I think there's one point that has to be made clear. Because, Ms. Hurley, you mentioned the word, you wanted to know what was meant by the 4 words, uses permitted,
As of right, I think, 5 or 6
By
words,
right.
yeah.
It's by right. And what the public should know, I think you do, but I think what the public should know is those 4 words are part of a table. They are the caption of a column that exists already and exists on the table for every zoning district that we have. Uses by right, special permit uses, conditional uses. There is a table for the zoning district. That's a heading. That's not a new addition to the zoning code. It has nothing, you know, unique to this particular amendment. So if you look in the zoning district under the table heading uses permitted by right, you'll see a variety of uses permitted by right, all of which already exist, and then this is simply an amendment. And it looks to clarify, not create a new use by right, because it's been the town's position. It was the building inspector's position before the planning board that research and development has always been permitted within that zoning district. So there's nothing to be made of those 4 words. Now, is it a clarification? Yes. I'm not sure what the, you know, the follow-up question is. You had said in an email that someone suggested that, or agreed that maybe a specific quantity, you know, should be included. Research and development not exceeding. I guess the board, you know, could adopt that view, could amend it. I have not a clue what number would be inserted, what quantity of what unit of measurement. The point to be made, I think, is that the amendment reserves to the planning board, in the context of prohibited uses and prohibited substances, the application of the performance standards. I understand that there are people out there who do not like what the planning board did or does when they don't necessarily agree with it, but the board appointed a planning board made up of members in whom the town board has chosen to place its trust to do the right thing for the town. I think the board thinks that it has done. I think the town board thinks that the planning board has the intelligence, the competence, and the desire to do what's best for the town to continue in that mission. So when Anelitech comes back, or the next Anelitech, the sub-Anelitech, whatever it is, comes back and they want to do something, the planning board will review it in the context of the zone code, in the context of research and development. It will decide whether what is proposed constitutes research and development or constitutes manufacturing with the big M or the little m, and it will make a decision in the best interests of the town. That's all the amendment does. But there is nothing to be made of the words uses permitted by right. It exists already, and it exists 24 times in the zone code in the existing tables as a heading. I don't know what else you can do with the amendment. If you want to ban it outright, you will do that. The amendment does not propose that. The amendment allows the continuation of research and development in a zone where it's always been, involving materials that have always been used, subject to performance standards, and we're one of the very, very few towns in the county, we may be the only town that actually has performance standards.
Thank you, John. I think that was a useful kind of presentation of that proposed law, and I think we should just leave it at that. You speak with clarity about the legal matters. And are there any other town board comments to this or other topics you want to, Paul?
Sure. I'd like to address a few of the items. Eileen, I'll also reach out to Bill Madden. As you know, I know Bill Madden, and I'll ask him if he could either send us some clarification or send somebody to clarify. I have a feeling it has to do with the Public Service Commission and the taxes and the cost of doing business in New York compared to the cost of New Jersey, but I think a clarification is required, and it's a good request. So I will reach out to him and follow up with that. Esther, Tom spoke to you about the bus, so I'm not going to get into that too much, but we'd have to have enough people who would rely on the bus or use the bus, not just a guess, but we'd actually have to do some research to make sure that it's a value for the dollars spent. Because it shouldn't be a personal transport to take certain individuals from one place to another. They have things like taxis for that, and most of these senior housings have a bus that they take their residents to the supermarket, to church on Sunday, and that shouldn't really be the town's responsibility to perform that service for certain individuals. It would have to be for the public at large. So unless we found a group large enough that would merit the cost, it's hard for me, and I agree with Tom, to spend, $900,000 for a certain group. Again, I think Dowling Gardens and several of those, the senior complexes have their own transport, which takes their residents to the places that they want to go.
Well, it's not only for Downey, it would be Venture, Stackport, and Downey. It's not fair.
Well, there's a lot of things that a lot of people want, Eston. Just because you ask for them don't mean you can get them. So it's a very expensive proposition that you're asking us to research, and we have been looking at it. But again, unless it serves the community at large, it's probably not something that's going to get supported by the board. Heather and Dr. Kelly, my intention was never to permit Anelitech to ramp up. They are permitted by right, I guess that you would say, to do research and development. I never, and my discussions with everybody on the board was to stop manufacturing, large-scale manufacturing or manufacturing outside of the research and development realm of BTX. So if that needs to be clarified, but I think John explained it pretty well, that is the intention of the board, not to allow them to ramp up. As far as I know, I don't even think they've started construction on their new building yet. So, who else? Cell towers. MTA cell tower. We were made aware of the MTA cell tower. We did ask the questions. We were told that we have no responsibility on the MTA property, and that our input was limited to a comment, which they're probably not going to use. And I think Andy made the comment in representative for the town saying that we were opposed to it, but they don't really care. They can do what they want. As far as the cell tower, which is going on the Van Houten property. I would assume that the MTA has rules and regulations that they have to follow as far as noticing, and I would assume that the MTA had, I'm not going to get into a debate with you or a screaming match. So, as far
Sir,
as the cell
we're happy to
tower-
talk about that, but he's providing an answer. And then following the meeting, if you want to talk with me about how the town notifies residents and what the newspapers do and so on, we can have that conversation. But right now, Councilman Valentine has to finish his comments.
As far as the cell tower on Van Houten, I am concerned about it also. It is in my neighborhood, and that is, a large tower, similar to the one that the MTA put up. Not quite as big, but pretty big for a residential area. We have no authority to grant our wishes on the planning board. But I did receive a few emails that they thought that the notice was done bad timing, for lack of a better word, because it was done right around the holidays and didn't give the residents ample time to get together. There are notice laws. The notices have to go out to certain areas and homes within the vicinity of it. I understand the notices did go out, but they went out around the holidays to meet the criteria of the law. I agree that maybe an adjournment would be in order, especially if the notice went out around the holidays, because, everybody's life is busy. Some people could be away and not get the notice and have ample time to respond or get a group together to oppose the cell tower. But there are rules and regulations, and they are available on who gets noticed and why, the distances, if you attach to the property, not attached to the property. There's a whole list of requirements that, and the notices do have to go out, and I think they have to go out in two fashions. One is just a letter, and one may be a return receipt letter, I'm not sure, but I know there is rules and regulations. It's at least a letter, and then it's noticed in the paper also. So that meeting is tomorrow night, and I really, it's in your neighborhood. If I were you, I'd be down at that meeting. It is in my neighborhood, and like I said, it would be improper for me to put my influence in on the planning board. So other than a procedural flaw, which could be the notice, for me to go down and then object to the people that I'm going to appoint next year, could seem like undue influence. And I could say that I'm just a community member, which I am also, and, I'm not sure it would be proper. John could, may be able to tell you there are rules and regulations in New York State statute which make them an independent board, and they're independent for a reason, so that we don't influence them. Otherwise, why would we need them? We could just handle everything. But they're independent for a reason. So I'm probably not going to be there. I may send a letter recommending that they do the 30-day adjournment because of the notice, which I think is reasonable. And who else? Not scaling up manufacturing. I got that. I think that's everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Dennis, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, most of it was already covered, but I just want to say I agree with Paul and Tom regarding the bus service. I'm the liaison to the senior groups, maybe because I look old. So I handle the senior groups in the town. And it was Pearl River B, going back 4 years ago, was saying that the town does nothing for seniors, which was an inaccurate statement on itself. I won't even get into that part of it. But what they were looking for is the same bus service that they have in Clarkstown. All right? And what I got into with them, and I also researched it, is the cost. And Tom is right on the money in terms of the cost for the bus service in Clarkstown. Mrs. Larkin got up before and talked about getting the money back from the state. The biggest thing we've been doing here in the last 5 years is trying to stay under the cap, trying to maintain the services that we have and not run amok and get other services. I know that doesn't help certain people, namely Esther, on Route 340. But our job here is to do a balance, all right? in terms of taking care of seniors, taking care of young people, taking care of keeping the taxes down, maintaining the services, and at times that's not an easy job to do. The other thing, there is a bus shelter on 340, but it's on the east side of the road. It's on the Thorpe Village side for the older people, but it's there. You know, whether they'd have another shelter, that's the county that decides, particularly on a state road, the county decides where they put the shelters and where they invest the money in the shelters. If that's something you want me to do, I can talk to the transportation department if you want a shelter on the other side. But, Esther, what would have to happen in order to have a shelter, you would have to have some type of petition for, it can't be just the Esther shelter. It has to be that it's for a significant number of people. Esther, you're a regular at our meetings here. You know you're out of line. So, Mr. LaBarbera, who spoke earlier, is a neighbor of mine. And Paul, when did they notify the town? Well, I was out for 2 months, so, you know, for various reasons. But I don't remember getting any notification at all. And to me, the word monstrosity is definitely right on the money for what Metro North did there. And it's a thing where I know that Carlucci's office also notified him. You say you notified him. My point would be if Tom Morahan was state senator still, I don't think it'd be there. Because you have to have some juice in terms of dealing with entities like Metro North. You do. You know, it's, you call up, they don't care. If I call up, they don't care. But Tom Morahan at the time carried a lot of weight up in the state. And it's a thing where, unfortunately, and I've talked to Mr. LaBarbera, it's something that nothing really could be done about at this point. You know, whether we can push it more, I don't know. In terms of the McCormick family, this town has been very conservative in terms of allowing cell towers. One I remember was on Middletown Road in 304 that was stopped, and that's probably going back, it could be 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And the limit, I guess, in our town law, I believe, John, is 75 feet. So therefore, you know, they're looking for a tower that's 125 feet, which is obviously more obtrusive. And I don't think it's going to happen, but again, it has to go through the process. All right? So, and I happen to agree with your take on it. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. And again, you know, if there's specific things that we can clarify after the meeting, most of us are happy to do that, including myself. That wraps up our public comment. I wanted to, before we just go into our agenda, which has a couple of items on it, but while everybody's here, take a moment to invite our Commissioner of Environmental Management up here, Joe Moran, to the podium. And because we have a special guy with us tonight, I believe Mr. DeZinni is sitting at the back of the room, although my eyes aren't what they used to be. You are back there, right? There you go. On our agenda tonight, we have the retirement of one of our longest-serving town employees and a guy who truly qualifies for that label, I think, irreplaceable in terms of your relationship to the development of our wastewater treatment plant and the management of that over many years. And I'm so happy that Joe is here tonight. We made a little certificate of appreciation to send you off in style and to just say a little word or two about your service and also the key role that you play at wastewater treatment, because it's one of those, you know, systems that most people really don't understand very well. I mean, our highway department is front and center. People see the plow trucks. People don't really know as much about the equally valuable wastewater collection and treatment system. And so Joe is here to say a bit about that and use this moment of your retirement to celebrate that. So, Joe, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I don't really know where to start, Bill. I don't want to end either. Amazing accomplishments. The town couldn't have a better employee. 43 years of service alone is remarkable, but the things that you've done have been remarkable. He came up through the ranks, promoted throughout. Anything he didn't know how to fix or how it functioned, he taught himself. He figured out complicated electronic circuitry all on his own. There was no on-the-job training for Bill. Bill did it himself. He is the behind-the-scenes man that keeps things going day after day. The ball got dropped a couple of times because of a rough history of the department, the untimely deaths of a couple of directors, and Bill was always there and kept things going. He's the quintessential go-to guy. You can rely on him 100%. I appreciate what you did for me. This town certainly appreciates, or hopefully, people will understand what you did for this department and for this town and for me. Thank you very much, Bill.
Bill, if you could just come up to the podium real quick. Thank you. So here's your certificate. I think Ann wants to take a picture. Here, let me put this back a little bit. That's enough. The paparazzi.
Yeah.
Do you think you could give us a word or two?
Not a real speaker there, Andy.
Just come on.
I just,
Tell people something, all right?
I just like doing what I did. You know, it was a job. Don hired me like 40 years ago or whatever, and it's just been a great job. I can't ask for anything more than that. The guys I work with, I think they're really good, the best guys down there. And Kevin, is going to take over the shop, I hope, eventually, and you guys are going to be in good hands.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Once again. It's really a poignant moment, and what you've done for the town is extraordinary. And also recognizing Don Brenner back here. I don't know how many people know Don, but past head of the sewer department, of Public Works. So folks, so we're in the presence of giants tonight, and we thank you so much for your service to the town.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. While we're on the topic, item number 6, do I hear a motion to accept the resignation? Actually, it's number 7, excuse me. Accept with regret the retirement of William Dzini, effective January 29, from the Department of Environmental Management and Engineering, and thank him for his 43 years of service and dedication to the town of Orangetown. Do I have a motion for this?
I'll make that motion.
From Dennis Troy.
It's a thing, I thank him also for his numerous tours of the sewer facilities. He made it very interesting, and he's just a wealth of knowledge, and the town has really been fortunate to have somebody of his caliber serving the town over the last 40-plus years. He's just a great human being.
Do I have a second over here? From Tom Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So number 7, the end of an era, the beginning of an era. Thank you, Bill Dzini. Deserves all the applause. Item number 1 on our list, going back to the beginning of the agenda, just simply has to do with the public hearing scheduled for January 19th. I'll make a motion for this. Do I have a second? Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. So we're still on for January 19th at 8:05 for a public hearing on the prohibition of manufacturing BTX and the clarification that research and laboratory production is allowed in the town. Number 2, number 2 and 3 are both have to do with the Association of Towns, the annual conference for town employees and managers. So number 2 is permission is granted to elected officials and department heads or their representatives to attend, this should say 2016, training school and annual meeting of the Association of Towns in New York City, February 14 to 17. Move from Tom Divany, second from myself. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 3 is the Association of Towns has a governing group that makes representation to the state and advocates for towns. And we have a delegate, and that delegate is Charlie Madigan as delegate to the Association of Towns meeting, with Robert Simon as alternate delegate to represent and vote on behalf of the town of Orangetown. We have a motion from Divany, second from Valentine. All in favor say aye. And thank you, Bob, also for representing the town. Do that every year. Number 4 is the appointment to the Blauvelt Fire Department of Stephen Sikorsky. Stephen's not with us tonight, for any chance, is he? Okay. Well, we thank him for his service and his commitment. He's hereby appointed to the position of firefighter with the Blauvelt Fire Company. We have a motion from Tom Divany, second from Paul Valentine. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 5, the same story with equal appreciation to Christopher Stanford, appointment to Blauvelt Fire Company. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second? Second from Troy. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 6, this is the resignation of Jill Fieldstein from the Architecture Board, which, we wish her well. We thank her for her service on architecture, and we also note at this time that there's a vacancy on the Board of Architectural Review, which needs to be filled by the town, and we're looking to do that, and all interested parties should submit a little letter of interest, and we've kind of put out a general call for that, and we'll keep repeating that, and then early in the next month or so, we'll do appointments, and there's a bunch of reappointments that need to be done for land use boards, and also all the town's committees as well. So this is the time to speak up, town board members, for your liaisons, review your rosters, and see if there's any new folks who want to join or people who want to get out because they have other things that they need to do. So I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Jill Fieldstein. Do I have a second? From Dennis Troy. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. And again, thanks, Jill. We did number 7. Number 8 and number 9 have to do with the position in the Justice Court Department here. Number 8 is creating a position of Associate Justice Court Clerk. It's an exempt position. It will be on the CSEA exclusion list. Do I hear a motion for this one? From Dennis Troy. Second over here. Valentine, all in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 9 is appointing Catherine Murphy to the position. She is currently serving on a different status in that office, and she also served as the assistant in the supervisor's office, and she's a proven town employee. We're really glad to have her on the team at the Justice Court. So do I hear a motion to appoint Catherine Murphy to the position of Associate Justice Clerk? From Mr. Troy, second from myself. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Number 10. All right, number 10 and 11 have to do with the awarding of a bid for the filter medium for the odor control system at the wastewater treatment plant. And thanks to our folks down there who negotiated a good deal for the town to take advantage of that, we're changing the purchase a bit. So number 10 is repealing a former resolution, number 557, awarding the bid for the material to General Carbon Corp. So I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second? Second from Divany. All in favor say aye. Number 11 is awarding the bid to General Carbon Corp for the replacement of the activated carbon media. And it goes on to describe in a number of whereases the type of service being paid for and how much of the carbon media and why. And so at the end there, it's resolved that the town is buying media for 6 vessels in the town's wastewater treatment plant for a total cost of $124,000 and change. And the bid is awarded to General Carbon Corporation. Do I hear a motion for this? Over here. Valentine with a second from Divany. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Joe, thank you for your work on that. More personnel items from the wastewater treatment plant. This is, number 12 is upon the recommendation of the Commissioner of Environmental Management, appoint Arthur Higgins to the position of Maintenance Mechanic 2, grade 17, effective January 13th. There was a vacancy due to a retirement. It's a funded position of 2016 budget, and we appreciate his service. Do I hear a motion for this? From Troy, second. Joe, could you come up to the podium, please, and just give us the rundown? And Donna Morrison's here as well to answer any questions about the process related to this appointment.
Joe, just quickly, give us a rundown on, we know that Bill DeZini is leaving, and those are going to be big shoes to fill. Is it a good idea to fill this position right now, and is Arthur Higgins the selected person for why?
Arthur Higgins is the selected person because he has the most experience of the candidates that applied for this position. He worked in the maintenance shop for a number of years and actually supervised a couple of the assistant mechanics that are there right now. The position is needed because in addition to the maintenance shop itself, which traditionally that's what this position, how this position functioned, was supervising everything that went on in the maintenance shop. It's tied directly to maintenance of pumps, the pump stations, the treatment plant itself. In addition to that, this person will assist with the supervision and scheduling of road crews, road maintenance crews, sewer maintenance crews. So this is going to be a key position.
Okay, and he was, out of the, I think you had 3 candidates from within the town, he was the most qualified and met the criteria and had the experience or whatever else you were required?
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Well, I second it.
We have motion, we have a second from Paul Valentine. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Thank you, Joe. Number 13 is also an appointment within the wastewater treatment plant. This is of Martin Murphy to the position of laborer provisional, grade 9, step 1, effective January 13th. Also, it's a funded position within the 2016 operating budget. I have a motion from Tom Divany, second from Valentine. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. And best of luck to these guys in their new positions. The audit.
The audit for tonight's meeting consists of 8 warrants for a total of $1,763,000. The first 5 warrants are for utilities and 207C benefits and Medicare reimbursements. The 6th warrant consists of 302 vouchers for $498,000. These are all 2015 items. Items of interest, number 2, Calmart Enterprises, $45,000 for emergency sewer spot repairs. Number 3, Capasso, $48,000 for recycling. Number 5, Kamung Supply Corp., $15,000 for Sparkhill Creek flood mitigation program. Number 7, Entech, $71,000 for sewer relining. That's part of the EFC grant. Number 9, Moody's Investors, $14,000 for our bond rating for our recently issued bond. Number 11, the State Comptroller, $30,000 for Justice Court revenue fines. And then the 7th warrant consists of 4 vouchers for $9,000 for 207C benefits again. And the 8th warrant consists of 17 vouchers for $870,000. These are all 2016 items. Number 1, Applied Golf, $120,000 for the Blue Hill Management contract. Number 3, CSEA Employee Benefits, $26,000 for dental benefits. Number 4, FDM Preferred Insurance, $41,000. That's for the Blauvelt fire workers' compensation, which we always pay for and take out of their bill. And number 5, the New York State Department of Civil Service, $639,000 for health care. Are there any questions on tonight's audit?
Just a note on the Computel. I guess that's a portion of their. We got money back basically from Verizon, and they get a cut of that.
Yes,
And now that the bill is corrected, the town will be paying less to Verizon going forward.
Yes, and we're obviously we're only cutting them a check for whatever we've actually received. So
Right, so cash in hand, and they get their portion. And the same
Exactly.
applies to Cablevision, and they estimated that Cablevision owes us about $150,000, and the town attorneys have asked them and will support Computel in going to bat for the town with Cablevision to get as much of that money as we can possibly get. So that's still outstanding, and hopefully we'll be giving another check to Computel sometime soon for a percentage on the money that we're going to get from Cablevision. Any other questions about the audit or clarifications? I'll make a motion to accept the audit. Do I have a second? Mr. Troy, all in favor say aye. The ayes have it. I know, Jeff, you have something for us to sign.
I'd like to try to get the field use policy on the agenda and the OMM contract or whatever, agreement, I guess it is, on the agenda also. So can we have that at the next workshop meeting if possible?
Do you want me, does everybody have the most recent version?
John was
I'm
working
sure.
on it. I think he has it, so.
I think I got the comments.
Yeah, I think I got the comments too. Yeah, the field use policy and the OMM agreement.
The soccer complex use agreement, too. Gotcha.
So if we could get that on the workshop, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Let's workshop it. I just want to advise the board of one or two things. One is, if you're not already aware, with the rail trail project from Orangeburg to Blauvelt, they did put in the bridge over the railroad track, and that was kind of the biggest gap. But the paving of the trail won't take place until it warms up a little bit. So it was nice to see that. I went and took a look at it. It's blocked off. You can't go over the bridge, but it's there, and that's great. I just want to let folks know we're interested in the 7 O'Grady question and the improper use of houses for Airbnb, big party rentals, that we've been working on with the town attorneys, a version of a law that we think will work to enable good enforcement against that kind of abuse of a residential area. So we look for that.
You've seen in New York City,
There's
you know,
been
some of the Airbnb, some of the people who are renting out also are really destroying their neighborhoods too.
There's definitely some neighborhood effects there, and we've
Yeah,
seen it in
it-
Orangetown in one sort of really high-profile case, and I know the city is tackling with it, and there's much more involvement with hotels and other kinds of
Well, I'm just saying,
stakes. Yeah,
it's-
yeah.
Well, I think the issue with the city.
You want to stop it early.
They're renting out rent-stabilized apartments and making money with.
Yeah, but also there's question about the types of usage also.
Right, you have an apartment in a building, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of strangers coming and going from one of them, and it doesn't feel right. So that among a number of other pressing issues we'll be taking up as soon as I feel like we have the paperwork in order and something that the town board is going to really be able to work with. So I just want to mention those two things. Other than that, we do have a couple of adjournments. We wanted to adjourn the meeting in memory of 3 town residents who passed away in recent weeks. Letitia LaForgia, which is Lisa Hastings' mother. George Morrison, who's the brother of Bob Morrison, who's our personnel director, Donna Morrison's husband. And Eileen Reynolds. In these town residents' memory, I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second? From Troy, all in favor say aye. The ayes have it, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.